This is Whisper from History, where forgotten voices rise again. Cold wind whispered across the snow. 9 young souls, on a single mission and a watch that stopped forever at 7:09. What truly happened in that frozen moment? This is the story of those who never returned, their journey written in ice, and their secret buried in the golden hands of time. If you missed our 32-episode Season 1, Dark History, watch the full playlist on our channel. It was late January 1959, in the remote Ural Mountains of Soviet Russia. A frozen wind howled through the white expanse, carving patterns into the endless snow. Somewhere beneath that ice, a group of young hikers, 9 of them, lay still. Their journey ended in silence. But among the remains scattered across that ghostly slope, investigators would find something chillingly precise. A single wristwatch, frozen in time, stopped at 7:09 a.m. And for decades, that watch would become the heart of one of the coldest and strangest mysteries in human history. This is the story of the Frozen Watch Mystery. They were students, engineers, and adventurers, members of the Ural Polytechnic Institute. Led by 23-year-old Igor Dyatlov, the group set out in late January 1959 to conquer the unforgiving slopes of Otorten Mountain. They carried with them maps, journals, and the unshakable optimism of youth. It was supposed to be a celebration of endurance, a journey through the heart of the Soviet wilderness. But the mountain had other plans. By February 2, 1959, something went terribly wrong. The group never returned. Search teams were dispatched weeks later, trudging through snow that came up to their chests. When they finally found the campsite, they were met with something that defied explanation. The tent, half buried in snow, was slashed open from the inside. Footprints led away barefoot, some in socks, others in only one shoe. No sign of struggle. No sign of another human presence. And then, scattered across the frozen landscape, the bodies began to appear. 2 of them, lying side by side near the edge of the forest, half naked in the snow, their skin tinged a ghostly orange. 3 more, found later as if they had tried to crawl back toward the tent, frozen mid. And finally, months later, 4 more bodies discovered in a deep ravine. It was there, under several feet of ice, that investigators found the body of Thibaut Brignoles, one of the hikers. On his left wrist was the watch. The glass was cracked, the strap stiffed with frost. The mechanism completely stopped. The hands pointed to a single moment in time, 7:09 a.m. But what happened at that exact minute? The Soviet investigators took careful notes. They catalogued every item, every wound. The watch, they believed, might offer a clue: the moment of death, perhaps, or the time of a critical event. But nothing added up. Autopsies revealed fractured skulls, crushed ribs, and internal injuries resembling the aftermath of a car crash, yet no external wounds. Some had missing eyes. One woman, Ludmila Dubinina, was missing her tongue. Radiation was detected on their clothing. And amid it all, that silent watch ticked no more. The files would eventually list it simply as Exhibit No. 7 watch stopped at 7:09, but to some, that small detail screamed something more. What could freeze a watch, destroy human bodies without visible trauma, and erase every logical explanation? In the decades that followed, theories multiplied like ghosts in the fog. The Soviet military claimed it was an accident, an avalanche, they said. But no avalanche had been recorded in that area. The slope wasn't even steep enough. Others whispered of secret weapons testing, of shock waves, radiation, and government cover-ups. Still, the watch remained, its frozen hands, fixed forever, at the moment when something unimaginable took place. Some historians believe the time marks the moment of exposure, when the hikers first fled the tent in panic. Others think it stopped when the final survivor succumbed to the cold. But then came a darker theory that the watches didn't stop naturally. They were forced to stop. In the 1990s, after the fall of the Soviet Union, classified archives were partially opened. Investigators began to re-examine the Dyatlov case with fresh eyes. Among the recovered items were 2 watches. Both stopped, one at 7:09, another at 8:45, 2 different times. Yet both frozen forever. Why? Some experts speculated a powerful electromagnetic pulse, the kind produced by high energy. Military tests could have disrupted the watch mechanisms. Others thought it could have been a lightning discharge, freezing the metallic components mid, and yet there were no scorch marks, no signs of fire. One researcher noted something peculiar. All the bodies with watches had their timepieces stopped within 2 hours of each other, as if something had swept over them, an invisible wave. But if that was true, what kind of force could kill 9 people in minutes, leaving no trace but fear and silence? Years later, retired Soviet investigator Lev Ivanov, who led the original inquiry, broke his silence. He claimed the government ordered him to close the case quickly, to eliminate panic. In his private notes, Ivanov wrote one haunting line: "I cannot dismiss the theory that the hikers encountered an unknown compelling force, an unknown force." Those 3 words would ignite decades of obsession. UFO researchers seized on them, claiming bright orange lights were seen in the sky over the Urals that night. Meteorologists suggested ball lightning. Skeptics called it all hysteria. They panicked and ran out into the cold, they said. But the scene told another story. Tents sliced open from within. Bodies spaced apart, as if they fled from something or someone. And that single watch, still there, its silent hands forever, marking the minute when time itself froze. There's a strange detail, often overlooked in the official files. When the last 4 bodies were found, the watches of 2 hikers still had working springs, not dead batteries, but wound mechanisms. They should have kept ticking for hours after the wearers died. But they didn't. Something made them stop instantly. A forensic horologist, a watch expert, later tested identical Soviet-era timepieces. Under extreme cold, he found they would slow down, but not stop entirely. It would take either violent shock or intense electromagnetic interference to halt them mid-motion. So what could deliver both shock and electromagnetic disruption in the middle of a snow-covered mountain in 1959? Theories turned darker. Some believed a parachute mine test gone wrong, Soviet ordnance designed to explode above ground, creating massive concussive waves. Such a blast could break bones without leaving wounds. It could blind, disorient, and deafen. It could also stop watches. But if that were true, why were no fragments found? Why no craters, no scorch marks, no shrapnel? And why were the military already at the site before the official search teams? By the 2000s, digital forensics and declassified satellite data reignited the debate. Researchers found traces of metallic contamination near the ravine where the bodies were discovered, suggesting something unnatural. Others pointed to radioactive isotopes in the hikers' clothing. The official Russian government reopened the investigation in 2019, 60 years later. Their conclusion: an avalanche. Again. But the geography, the physics, even the survivors' positions, none of it fit. It was a story meant to close the file, not solve it. And still, that watch exhibit No. 7 sat in an archive box in Yekaterinburg, unclaimed, unmoving, unread. In 2020, a historian named Anastasia Kolesnikova obtained rare access to the artifacts. She described holding the watch in her gloved hands. The case back bore faint scratches, as if someone had tried to wind it with trembling fingers. Perhaps one of the hikers, moments before death, tried to check the time. Perhaps that was the last human act before the mountain took them. Kolesnikova wrote in her field notes, "The watch is not a clue. It's a witness to something no one was meant to see, somewhere between fact and fear. The frozen watch mystery endures because of what it represents, not just death, but the moment of death, captured with mechanical precision. In a way, that watch became a time capsule, the last second before chaos. If it stopped at 7:09, that was when order broke, when the laws of logic, nature, and survival no longer applied. And yet, something about the scene feels orchestrated. The tense, careful cuts, the path of footprints, the measured distance between bodies, as if they had followed some unspoken signal, as if they had seen something so terrifying that even freezing to death in open snow felt safer than staying inside. One surviving letter from the hikers, mailed days before their disappearance, reads simply, "We are heading north. We'll be back soon. Don't worry." It was signed, optimistically, the Dyatlov Group. Those words reached home long before their bodies did. For families, the watch became an unbearable symbol, a reminder of time frozen forever between goodbye and return. Every second that ticked after 7:09 was a second their loved ones never saw. But this was not the only time in history a watch told a story of death. After Hiroshima, countless pocket watches were recovered from the ruins, all stopped at 8:15 a.m., the exact second the atomic bomb detonated. In Titanic's wreckage, divers found wristwatches frozen at the minute the ship sank beneath the waves. Across generations, when humanity meets catastrophe, time itself seems to bear witness. Perhaps that's why the frozen watch still haunts us, because it's not just a mystery of death. It's a mystery of time, time that ran out, time that refused to move forward, time that may have recorded something far beyond our understanding. Even now, on the slopes of Kalat Syakhl, the mountain of the dead winds still howl across the old campsite. Tourists visit, leaving flowers, photographs, and makeshift memorials. Some swear their compasses flicker near the site. Others say watches run slow, as if time itself hesitates there. No one truly knows what happened that night. No one knows what the hikers saw, or why they ran, or why one watch and only one marked 7:09 a.m. But somewhere in that frozen wilderness, buried beneath decades of snow, lies the truth. A truth measured, not in words, but in seconds. 7 hours after nightfall, 9 lives lost. One watch stopped, and time, that never moved again. The icy winds of those mountains still carry the memory of 9 young souls. At 7:09. 9 lives were frozen in time. 7 past 9, not just a moment, but a secret buried beneath the snow. Years have passed, yet that clock, and the truth of that night, never moved forward.